First of all, thank you all for coming out tonight. This is really great to kind of kick off this campaign. And I'll tell you a little bit, start off by saying a little bit about what's going on and how we're doing. As you know, we started probably back in November. We had a tour of the district. We spent 2 days and about 1,500 miles with my car to go around to the district size, which is actually larger than the state of New Jersey. We visited all the major towns and counties out there. We met with a lot of people. We tried to get some initial things going. Now, since that time, as you know, there's a lot more people that have gotten into the race. And we now have 7 people that are running for it, a good number of them from up here. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that for a minute, because one of the things I'm trying to tell people about me, particularly people who are saying, well, we don't know, there's a lot of people out there, we don't know which candidate we want to get behind, is that one of the things that I can bring to the table is that everybody in this room knows who I am, and I've been around here for the last 10 years as a supervisor, and I think that's important because hopefully, and I think it was Ronald Reagan who said, I'm not going to be against somebody because I only agree with them 80% of the time. And it's obvious that there's probably some votes that I had on the Board of Supervisors or on the school board that you might not have agreed on, but hopefully the philosophical approach that I've taken to governance, you understand where I'm coming from. And that's very important to me, because what I've always said is that I have core principles that lead me in my decisions and how I do things, and that's conservative principles that believes in smaller government, that believes in efficient government, that believes in effective government, but not too much government. And I'm afraid that that's what's happened in Washington, D.C. these days. I really started this race because I was very concerned, as I know a lot of you are, with what's going on with this current administration. It was a very large step for me to say that I want to step up and run for Congress and put this kind of time and effort and money into doing it. And I can tell you, Brenda, my wife, thank goodness she's by my side here. And I'm at a point in my life where, you know, we've raised our 4 children. We've been very blessed to have 4 children who are now out, and we taught them how to be self-reliant and individualists, and they have become that. They're out there in the world working and off of our payroll, which is good. And so that's kind of the way where I am in my life today. I'm not going to Washington to make a career out of this by any means at all. But I do have, my background is in finance. I have an MBA. I've been working with budgets all my life, both in corporate America and with individuals and small companies. So I have some understanding that I think they need up in Washington. Somebody understands a little bit about budgets and how you go about balancing those budgets. So that's kind of a little background of where I am. Now, the main part of our meeting tonight, other than to answer any questions you might have, is that I'm going to turn this over to John Putner. He's going to talk about these packets that we've given you. One of the things that we're charged with as candidates, even running for as a Republican Party member, we have to get 1,000 signatures from people across the state. Now, these signatures don't have to come from people that say that it's not a saying that they are voting for me or have even made up their mind at this point. All it really is saying is that we need to have 1,000 people who are willing to have my name put on the ballot. So that's going to be kind of the kickoff of the grassroots part of it, because we also hope to collect people who are willing to support me. Rodney? Thank you for coming. Our newest supervisor, one of the best people to help me out on the board, Rodney. Thank you for coming out. And he stepped up day one, I can tell you, in our first 2 meetings. So really glad that he's here tonight. With that, I really want to see if there's any questions that you have of me before I turn it over to John about the campaign and where we're going. Obviously, we've got to raise a lot of money. It's going to be an expensive race. So that's our main thrust that we're doing now. We are trying to do that. We'll be having a financial report come out at the end of this month. And that's going, it can always be better. We can always use more money. So that's another thing that we want to try and do, is collect as much money as we can. But we're not here tonight to appeal to your pocketbooks, although I always appeal to pocketbooks everywhere. But is there any questions that you have of me before we get into the meat of the meeting, which is... Oh, you're going to let me off easy.
No, what campaign strategy do you have, I mean, to loosen up this 7-person sort of clog here?
Well, there's some thought that it'll loosen itself up, that as we start moving along, that there will be people that will drop out of the race. I really don't know about that. Maybe John can speak to that a little bit more. He's been in a lot of races. By the way, this team that we put together, we're really excited about them. They have run a lot of congressional races before. They've won a lot of congressional races, and we're just excited about the fact that John and Jared, who you'll be meeting and talking to a little bit, will have had the kinds of experience and help that I need as to how to take me through this race. Right now, it's pretty much about raising money for eventual TV campaigns and media campaigns that are going to come up later in the election. But we also need, what's very, very important, is what you're here tonight, is to get the grassroots efforts going, because we also want to start bringing in the people that are willing to support us, that are willing to make those phone calls. You've been around enough elections, I know you know how it goes. We got to make phone calls, we got to walk neighborhoods, we got to get contributors in, and just get some enthusiasm going about our campaign. I get this question all the time because people say, and in fact, really in talking to people that have been there before, I'm getting, people, congressmen that I know who've been there before, they say you have to be very careful that you don't fall into the trap of going to Congress and becoming just like everybody else. And there's two ways I kind of identify that. One is the fact that at my age, and according to my kids, I'm too ingrained in my ways, I'm not going to change the way I am, okay? And the other thing is that and this is where I draw on the experience I've had being on the Board of Supervisors for the last 10 years. It's not always been easy for me. It's not always been where I could just get everybody to go along and do what I want to do on it. But what I have done is try to stay, as Charlie asked earlier, and he knows because he and I have gone back and forth for years, and I always get back to him as sometimes not as quick as he would hope because of other things going on. But I'm open to ideas from the people of this district, and I think that's what's different. I don't think that's what Perriello was. Perriello was up there following a party line that is being dictated by Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid and people like that, and that's what I'm not going to do. I've never done that here. I've run as a Republican. I am a Republican. I always will be a Republican, but I'm not going to any kind of platform or something that they have. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that most of the other candidates out there, except for Robert Hurt, have got no history. So they can tell you that they're going to do anything they want to. I keep saying, look at my history. Probably won't agree with 99.9% of the things that I've done and how I've legislated, but hopefully you'll see the base core principles that I have, the constituent service that I think is necessary, the things that Virgil Goode had. He was, Virgil would, I can't think of a time that I ever wrote to him and I didn't get, I might have got a letter back from him, but it was always a handwritten note on it saying, Ken, glad you heard about this. And that's not just because I was on the Board of Supervisors, because I think everybody else probably who had dealt with it could have the same type of thing. That's the type of congressman I plan on being. A person of the people of the 5th District, not an insider in Washington.